Good morning, folks. Welcome to America's Talk Show. Today is Thursday, June 12th. I'm your host, rdizzle408. Before we begin, a few rules. We are open to all opinions shared on our show in a civil and polite manner. We want a fun chat where we learn from one another. Smack in the chat or on the show will get you muted, then removed, then banned. So please resist the urge to troll. Though we are unaffiliated with Mark Halperin's show on Two-Way, what we do here is expand on the stories Mark covered and dig into what was missed. We bring in our special guest in the second half of the show to further enhance the discussion and penetrate the corporate media veil. Today's guest is Mr. T. West of AfriSynergy News. He's out of Dallas. I would like to ask all of our participants and the wider YouTube audience to take a moment to like AfriSynergy News on YouTube. The link is in the YouTube chat. We'll drop it in the Zoom chat in a minute. Thank you very much, Mr. T. West, for joining us. And as for the topics on today's show, Claudio was kind enough to drop them in the Zoom chat. We have Iran, the protests in LA, the resistance in 28, reconciliation, Hogg, and the Democratic band. So I would like to check on the room here. What was the hot topic, guys? What would you say was the hot topic for Mark's show? And if you give me a second, I need to turn off my, I'm getting feedback here. I'm sorry. The hot topic, guys. What would you say was the hot topic for Mark's show?
Israel and Iran is a big topic. The protests continue to be a big topic. Kamala Harris having her delusions was a big topic. And the FBI, I think everyone would agree the FBI agent who came on, Maureen, was a highlight as well.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah, Duke, can you tell us about who came on?
Her name was Maureen. She was a retired FBI from LA, working drug and gang enforcement. And
right.
She's quite opinionated. And I, fortunately, hers agreed with mine. I'd hate to be the one that disagreed with her.
Yeah, she had a quite intense story about her line of work, seeing a 2-year-old with powder on the hands, some white powder, dealing with that. Daryl, sorry, I kind of cut you off. Had some feedback issues there. You were describing. No, he's fine. Okay, I'm going to bring in Andrew Tawani, my favorite. I extended the VIP pass, and he took it. So, Andrew, what did you think of Mark's show today? Anything stick out to you?
Hey, good morning. I think he was wise to point out the tensions in the Middle East with Iran, and that is potentially a huge story if things happen. And I'm kind of surprised it's not getting bigger play. But there was a huge plane crash, although I think that'll sort of disappear from the news cycle as today goes on. As far as I was also struck by the reaction to David Hogg and his run as vice chair being over, and just the Democratic brand. I think that's an interesting conversation too that could go on forever, really, until they get their some semblance of their shit together. You know what I mean?
I didn't expect Hogg to get the RFK treatment from the party.
Not that fast. I feel like it was coming. And you could sort of see that. I don't know if you folks caught his if any of you folks caught his appearance on Bill Maher a few weeks ago. You might want to check that out. He's not, as the party looks to try to reel younger men back in, he's just not the person to do that. And that's no disrespect to him either. But he's just not equipped.
Not a quick hand.
No, I was saying not equipped. I just don't think
Not
he's
equipped.
got any of the. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the ideas. He doesn't have anything. I think the last time I was on, I talked about Dean Phillips, and I'm not saying he's the person for that job, but I'm still shocked that they're not trying to get him out there in some capacity. I don't know. I guess maybe he's gotten the RFK treatment too at this point.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Andrew. Claudio from Italy.
I would say that more than the RFK treatment is more like the Greta Thunberg treatment for a reason, because it seems like before they were all great, all nice of what this guy was saying, and all of a sudden what everything that David Dog was doing, it became toxic. In some ways, what with Greta has happened. And the interesting thing is that already yesterday on the show, Mark was giving a good answer to a model that the Democrats should follow. That was this Democrat National Chair Committee, Ron Brown. And we was telling about the thing to prepare the political machine, to prepare everything, that in some ways what Trump is doing right now, that he's preparing regarding what is the nomination, all the money, all the stuff. But to be honest, the problem of the Dem is not about policy, because in reality they know what they should do. They should moderate everything the Republican they think is excessive, but not to go from one end to the other of the political spectrum. I think that's the problem. Instead, what I would say for the Republicans is to do what Harding and Coolidge and Hoover did some time ago, to prepare a plan for the after Trump, what they want to do as tax cuts, what they want to do as reform, what to do in the case of a supermajority in the Congress with the Social Security. That is the real deal for us. It's something that the Democrats, let's be honest, they will never touch, even if it's a real problem.
Thank you for that, Claudio. ML, gateway to the West.
Thank you. Yeah, St. Louis. So the other thing that people are dropping, they're not picking up. David Hogg he sucked all the oxygen out of the room, so good for him. But Pennsylvania State Rep Malcolm Kenyatta was also dumped on the sidelines, and they're redoing that vote they're doing two votes, for one for Hogg and then one for Kenyatta. Anyway, it's two young men who this couldn't be worse for the DNC for optics, because you have a young black man and you have a young white man, and both of those demographics are not allowed on Democrat property territory whatsoever. They're in. So it just goes to show they have a very big, massive problem, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. And then I hope we talk about the one big, beautiful bill later. I have an interesting observation later on. But anyway.
Okay, thank you for that, ML. I wanted to bring Jacqueline in from Southern California, because Jackie, the other day you made a comment about Newsom that you weren't in favor of him. Is that correct?
Well, I voted for Newsom, but I see him as not a good person, not a good actor on the state, because I just know he says one thing and does another. And he lied about, my big thing is that bothers me the most is he is lying. Like, he's lied about California having good progress on climate when he was having more gas drilling that wasn't counted in the emissions count. And I just think if he keeps saying one thing and doing another, I don't trust him.
And regarding what's happening with David Hogg, would you care to share any opinion on that?
I think that I think the Democratic Party does have a problem with old people being too much in charge of things, but I don't think David Hogg is qualified anyways.
Okay, thank you for that, Jacqueline. Andrew, if you could remind the speakers where you're chiming in from, the viewers, I'm sorry.
Yep, I'm in North Jersey, right outside New York City, and we just had a primary here for in the governor's race, by the way, and Democrats were all not good candidates. But I just wanted to go back to one thing about Hogg and the whole Democratic brand. Another person I've seen lately who's bucked the trend on Democrats is Fetterman. I've seen him at least twice now tweet about the situation in LA, about the riots, and about calling them what they are, and not being crazy about it. And again, like he seems to be getting that treatment as well from the Democratic Party. They just will sacrifice anyone who does not toe that very specific line. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. He's another one. Talk about somebody who has the potential to connect with male voters. It's hard to think of somebody better even than Fetterman. And as he seems to emerge as common sense, they're pushing him farther away. So
I'm in Pennsylvania. I can tell you, nobody here likes that guy. He's not going to last. Next election, he's out. He's
why does no one like him?
Because the Democrats all hate him, and people on the right think he's a loser. Like, he dresses like a loser.
Yes.
And then anybody who's America First isn't going to vote for him because he's just a shill for Israel. He's not going to last another election.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Jen from Oklahoma.
Well, my comments aren't specifically about David Hogg. I think he's a symptom of a problem. When Trump came along, he inspired people to follow him based on his ideas. So this whole MAGA movement was based on somebody, like they heard somebody who was saying the things they'd been thinking, and they followed him. What I've been witnessing in the Democratic Party for, I don't know when it started, maybe sometime during Obama, and I'm not talking about all Democrats here, I'm really talking about the party, is this attitude of believe what we tell you to believe or you're not welcome. And the whole idea that they keep kicking, notable people out, and that they have gone so hard against men, really. I don't know. I just feel like their mindset is, resistance is futile. I mean, they really are like, believe this or we'll cancel you. And I don't see that as leadership. So I think they're struggling because they don't have real leadership. I'm not saying all their ideas are bad. I'm just saying they're not inspiring people to believe the ideas. They're telling them to believe the ideas. And I just think there's a big difference in that.
Thank you for that, Jen. Great insight there. Andre from New York City?
Yep.
City.
Well, just in quick response to Jen, there are Democrats who believe in charter schools, and there are those who condemn them. There's those who support full abortion rights. There are those who agree to some restrictions.
Right.
There are those who are full gun rights, and there are those who are, and these are on the national level.
Right. What I'm saying is I'm talking about the party. I'm not talking about like your Democratic voter necessarily. I'm talking about the party itself.
Right. I'm talking about elected officials, people in the party who have those opinions. They live in blue swing state districts, and so they have different opinions than the majority. Dean Phillips is one. There are
You're right. You are correct. There are exceptions.
Yeah. And then I would also point out that in the last 24 hours, as Mark pointed out, we had Rand Paul disinvited from the White House because he wasn't towing the party line. So there are ways that
he just got reinvited. I don't know if you guys saw that. While we were on the main show, Trump tweeted, he's like, no, Rand Paul's invited. So I think what happened there was Stephen Miller disinvited him and Thomas Massey.
I didn't realize it was Taco Tuesday. But I do want to point back. I do want to point back that we are not in 2027. We are in 2025, leading towards the midterm elections. We are not looking for one singular national leader. We're looking for electoral wins in the 2026 midterms. And I keep harping back on this. I've been saying this for like a month. The Republicans were completely dead after the 2008 election. The same things we are saying now about the Democrats. They're never going to win an election again. They're on the downhill. And the Republicans thought they could do a top-down thing with listening. So the leaders of the Republican House were doing a whistle-stop tour across America, May, June, July, August, to find a different direction, more outreach to Latinos, more something else. They ended up canceling that with another press conference in August because all of a sudden the Tea Party sprang up. And that was a populist movement. And I agree that that's a populist movement. There's people who said it was AstroTurf, but that's a populist movement. That was a protest movement that came about throughout the country. Obviously, it was fed by, maybe some PACs and stuff, but I believe it's an organic movement. Right now, we're seeing an organic movement, and I feel that the Democrats have no choice if this anti-ICE movement goes on, that just like the Republicans in 2009, they abandoned their plans for a change of party, and they said, well, we want to win, we got to lean into the populism. I think what we might see is that we might have to listen about who these leaders are in these different cities doing these protest movements, as some of them might be potential candidates in 2026.
I am all for Democratic Party deciding that they need to listen. I am totally behind that.
I did want to get, Jack, if you don't mind me calling on you, you do consider yourself Hispanic, is that correct?
Oh, no, I am 1/8 Spanish, but I don't think that counts because that traces back to settlers in Louisiana. So no, not really. I just know.
You're non-Anglo though? Is that because you mentioned the Anglos one time?
I said gringo, and I consider myself a gringo.
Okay, all right. So do you see what's happening in Southern California? I'm just, is it AstroTurf or grassroots? Do you see leaders emerging? I'm just curious.
Not really. I don't think I've heard anything on the news about anything happening locally and what people are saying. And even the news reporting on Santa Ana and Orange County is like, that I passed by the TV was just like very non-committal and not even making a statement from even like the news people. It's like, I don't really think, it seems like everyone's avoiding the issue.
Yes, and I think I would imagine Trump got the image he wanted with the Mexican flag being waved with the guy in the mask. He's flexing his six-pack on top of a burning car. So it's like, there's your leaders there. Claudio from Italy, please.
Yeah, I think that, as Andrew said, now the issue with the Democratic Party is to try to find again the variety in the left, because I think there is a presence of different candidates, people that can have an abundance agenda, people that can be cultural moderate, people that can be pro-Israel, pro-Ukraine, people that can be more attentive to foreign policy rather than be dove. And I think also in the Republican Party, there shouldn't be a top-down risk to say, hey, everyone has to be or a moderate or a MAGA, because it would be the way in which they will lose the majority, in my opinion. And this is happening because on the state level, the Republican Party is doing a policy, and the federal level another. It's like to tell in Reaganian terms, in the state they are doing what it's okay for the Reaganian Republicans, in the state what is okay for the Reagan Democrats. I don't know if I can explain it in a better way. And I hope there will be soon, with the Senate discussion and with the pass of the beautiful bill, a real reconciliation, which is not the one of the Congress, but the one inside the Republican Party, to remake work with fusionism. And that's the reason why I was telling that, in my opinion, the after Trump should be already prepared right now. And as I was saying with Luke on the Discord chat, there should be a talk between all the think tanks and all the PACs in the Republican Party to decide the policy of the Congress for at least the next 20 years, or 12, if they don't want to think too much long term.
Thank you, Claudio. And since you mentioned the big, beautiful bill, I was wondering if ML, you had some comments you wanted to make earlier, if you didn't mind sharing them now.
Yeah. So one of the things, the connective tissue that I'll go into very, very quickly is that one thing that should be noted: if this one big, beautiful bill doesn't get passed and taxes go up, those taxes are going to go up on business. That has a direct correlation on jobs and growth and a whole bunch of other things. In the UK, in May they announced they had 109,000 jobs that they lost. That was capstone on top of earlier in the fall late last year, Rachel Reeves, under their autumn budget plan in October 2024, they lost at least 267,000 jobs as well. Now that was tied to hiking the national insurance tax on employers. My point is, if the GOP and us and the Republicans don't get the one big beautiful bill passed, corporate taxes are going to go up, and you're going to see the economy screech to a halt potentially without some kind of thing like that. And the UK is in dire straits right now. They are not looking very well, and they weren't even looking good anyway. So they don't even have the backboard of, or the backstop, excuse me, of what we have, because we're so big. We can kind of adjust our levers, and it's. I fear that if people don't connect the dots on that, it's a very big stick, I guess, is what I'm saying, to use to beat, internal intra-party opposition over the one big beautiful bill. Tweak it, whatever. I don't care. Just it needs to be passed, especially going into the midterms, et cetera, et cetera. We've already got the rhetoric fodder lined up to shoot out of a cannon endlessly at the Democrats with the whole LA riots thing. And who knows? That could just be a blip on the radar. Probably will be eventually. But I'm just saying, those things, high taxes, when taxes go up, jobs go down. Now eventually they'll go back up, hopefully, but not like the economic wizards over in the UK thought they would. So, and again, it is a different world, but still, it's all the same.
Thank you for that, ML. Andre from New York.
All right. Yeah, I just want a quick response to Mike. There are taxes on businesses we just levied across them on Liberation Day. So businesses are already feeling taxes. I might say that maybe as a stopgap measure, we might have to pause the tariffs if we can't get the big beautiful bill, and then the Senate brings up their separate idea of having a vote just on the tax cut extension. But my point being that we already have a tax on businesses. It's the tariffs. And JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are all putting out new estimates. And the latest consensus is that by the end of the year, they are predicting that our GDP will grow by 1.4%, as opposed to last year's growth of 2.8%. So we're already in the danger zone. I agree with Mike in terms of, if anybody should be talking about anything, it's about keeping the economy going. And that should be a number one concern. How it all plays out, whether it's the tax cuts, whether it's the tariffs, whether it's people talking about the debt, because that's a big thing for businesses also, because that's going to affect our interest rates as well.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick to add on to the thing, just to get the analogy, why 109, you might say 109,000 is, who cares in the UK? That would be equivalent to 500,000 in the United States. That's I don't disagree with you that the tariffs have some kind of effect. I do disagree with Morgan Stanley and all them other guys. They said the same things about the Trump tax cut. So they are natural Trump doubters anyway. But you're right. It will absolutely impact and raise prices for the consumer at some point. It'll catch up. I agree. Yeah.
Thank you guys for that. And we had who do we lose? Someone had their hand up.
Yeah, it was me, but Michael covered what I was going to say.
You can say it again, Duke.
Well, the current track record for J.P. Morgan Chase and that group is not outstanding. I don't know that I put a lot of stock in what they're saying right now. So I don't think the economy is going to grow as like it did last year. I think a lot of it has to do with the tariffs, but I don't see it getting growth below 2. Of course, my opinion is about as valuable as theirs right now.
Thank you for that, Duke. All right, folks, I think that wraps up our conversation from Mark's show, unless anyone had anything else they wanted to add to that. Otherwise, I'd like to bring in our special guest, Mr. T. West, Afro Synergy News. He's out of Dallas. He's had a YouTube channel for quite some time. And Mr. T. West, if you wouldn't mind taking people back to Trump 1.0, because that's when I first caught attention of you. And I would say that you've seen Trump trying to resist or combat the military-industrial complex, but I'll let you just introduce yourself, sir, and take it from there.
Yes. Hey, well, thank you, first of all, for the invite to your program. And also to the guests, listen to all your guests on the program, talking about various economic topics, the political topics. That's very good. Now, so Trump 1.0, 2015, 2016. One of the things that I had indicated in 2015 was that Trump would definitely win the presidency. And the reason why he would win the presidency was because people were upset with the status quo. And the status quo being traditional politicians, people who had been in politics most of their lives. Trump was not that way. He was not a politician. He was a businessman. And coming in with as a businessman, that was something very, very different. And based mainly on that, I said that the guy would become the president of the United States. And he did. He easily became president of the United States. Now, that's Trump 1.0. Now, then 4 years later, here comes Joe Biden. They're running against each other. Joe Biden, as most people know, Joe Biden spent most of his time in his basement there. And with that, you had also the convenience of the COVID-19 situation that was brought into bear during that election period. And it was the COVID-19 situation that placed Joe Biden in the White House, mainly through mail-in voting, universal mail-in voting. In states that had never done mail-in voting, they were doing mail-in voting. And historically, one of the stories that I also shared years ago was during the time of Abraham Lincoln, when Abraham Lincoln was running for re-election, he put a spy out among the Dixie Democrats at that time. And what they discovered was that the Dixie Democrats were preparing to carry out mail-in vote fraud, especially within the military, because there had been a war going on, the Civil War. And they discovered this. That is, Lincoln discovered this was going on. And it was mainly through mail-in voting. That is the most effective way of carrying out vote fraud, is through mail-in voting. So when Lincoln discovered all of this and they put these people on trial, some of them were hanged, some of them went to prison. That was how severe it was back then. Now, so let's come on forward to 2019, 2020. You had universal mail-in voting. And it was a universal mail-in voting through which massive mail-in vote fraud was being carried out. That put Joe Biden in the White House. But at that time, I also said that in 2024, when Trump runs again, it's going to be a blowout. Trump is going to blow Joe Biden away. So, of course, Kamala Harris, she stepped in. The Democrats pushed Joe Biden aside. Kamala Harris steps in, and he blows her away also. And that was a reflection of there not being a COVID-19 situation. There was the COVID-19 that put, as I say again, that put Joe Biden in the White House at that time. So now we have Trump 2.0, and this is a very, very interesting time. We have a situation that's going on in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in New York City, in Denver, Colorado, in Atlanta, Georgia. This situation as relates to illegal immigration and the anti-ICE movement in this country, which is being propelled by the Democrat Party primarily, and also many within corporate media. They're promoting this, and it's creating chaos within the United States. Now, of course, Governor Newsom of California, he's pointing the finger at Trump. He's blaming it on Trump. Trump is responsible for this. They should not be arresting these people in California, in Los Angeles, for being here illegally. Well, that was something that Trump promised, as we all know. He promised that. He promised that that is what he was going to do, and he's doing that. Now it creates situation. It potentially also creates a perfect storm. A perfect storm being you have the domestic situation going on, and that's growing here in the United States with the National Guard and some Marines being called out in Los Angeles, and you can possibly see a replication of that in the other cities that I named: New York, Chicago, Denver, Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia, and there will be a more cities that will be added on to this. So you have that situation that's going on domestically, and then you have the situation we know that's been brewing for some time, but it seems to be maybe coming to a head right now, where Benjamin Netanyahu wants the Trump administration to attack Iran, to go to war with Iran, just like Benjamin Netanyahu wanted the United States to overthrow the 6 other nations, Somalia, Lebanon, Libya, Syria, and there's another one also. But one of the United States to do its dirty business. Its dirty business being Israel's dirty business. So now we see that Iran is the last one standing. The other nation was Sudan, and Sudan fell apart. That was through the Republic of Sudan, and then you have the southern region of Sudan, Darfur, and all. They split that up. They divided those people to establish a dysfunctional Sudan, just like we see in Syria right now. Syria is pretty much dysfunctional also. So they want to create the same situation with Iran. Now, this is under Trump. So a perfect storm would be what you have happening domestically here in the United States, where Trump could potentially declare an insurrection. And declaring an insurrection means that he would bring in the military more into American cities. And then at the same time, you have this situation with Iran. And Iran is aligned with China, and it aligned with Russia. So you see the potential development of a perfect storm as regards to that geopolitically.
And T. West, I believe you're referring to Wesley Clark's 7 nations in 7 years. That's a speech I believe he gave, where he said he walked into some meetings and one of his guys is like, "Oh, you won't believe what's going on. They want to take down 7 nations in 7 years." I mean, I've heard it in other ways, Project for a New American Century. I don't know if these are related or different, but that there have been these plans on the tables for many years.
That's correct. That's correct. General Wesley Clark. So this situation that's developing domestically, it is very troubling. Now, as far as politically, Republicans, Democrats, the situation as it is right now, as relates to the anti-ICE movement, the flying of Mexican flags. And by the way, I haven't seen or heard the president of Mexico denounce those who are flying the Mexican flag here in the United States. So what we're looking at a fifth wheel, or a fifth column that has been brewing and been developing within the United States for many, many years. You saw under the Biden administration, you saw millions of illegal immigrants coming across the border from Mexico, and then they're being bused to Chicago, bused to New York, bused to Miami, bused to Denver, Colorado, bused to Atlanta, Georgia. They're being bused all around the country. And so it is not a coincidence that we see the spark once lit in Los Angeles, California. We see that spark then being sparked in Atlanta, Georgia, in New York City, in Denver, Colorado, in Chicago, Illinois. We're seeing that happening all across the country. Now, the Democrat Party, some of them are thinking that, well, they could politically benefit from this. Well, they could also politically harm themselves even more from this, because I think most of the American people are going to side with Donald Trump as relates to this anti-ICE movement. Federal laws trumps. They prevail over state laws, over sanctuary cities, over sanctuary states. Federal law prevails over that as it relates to illegal immigration. Now, Governor Newsom and many others, they beg to differ. You know, Kamala Harris, years ago, Kamala Harris said, she said, as California goes, so goes America. Well, California is well over 50% Hispanic. And that is the case because primarily of illegal immigration. You've had millions who have come in from Mexico across that border into California. And in some of the municipal elections, they're actually voting. And they also want to move that from the municipalities, the city level, the county level, to the state level, to the national level. That is the Democrats' agenda. This is what they want to do. Now, it has also, illegal immigration has also affected communities within the inner cities. Usually where most of the illegal immigrants go in the urban areas, they go into what is traditionally Black communities, and they offset the socioeconomic situation in those areas, which brings about more joblessness, more homelessness. This is a situation that has been generated across the United States in many of these urban cities. And that is a big reason why in these protests in these cities that I named earlier, beginning with Los Angeles, you don't see many African Americans out there at all. You don't see them because they do not see the anti-ICE agenda as being beneficial to them. And they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones. You have others. You have some within the Asian communities, and the Asian community is very vast. You have various Asian groups, but so many of them, they're also against this anti-ICE movement. They're against it, and they will tell you, most of us in our group, with most of the Asians, most of us, we come here and we do it the legal way. Not all, but most. They do it the legal way. And traditionally, we've seen in the past with regards to the Haitians, and the Haitians, as we know, they're Black. When they come into the country, if they come in illegally, they are almost always immediately shipped out, deported. So, but we have not seen that same situation as regards to the Hispanic groups coming in from Mexico, Venezuela, and many of the other Central American countries. We haven't seen that situation. And they have the numbers. They have the numbers in California. So many of the politicians, be it the mayor of Los Angeles, the governor of the state of California, they are afraid to actually go against them with their anti-ICE agenda. They're afraid to do it politically because many of those illegal immigrants in California, many of them, they can vote. They can vote in some of the local elections there. And these politicians and Democrat politicians, they know that. So anyway, I'll stop right there. There may be questions.
Yes, thank you for that, T. West. Thank you for that presentation. And we have Andre from New York.
Yeah, as I've mentioned numerous times, the only confirmed numbers we have for undocumented people in this country are from 2022. So we really don't have the second half of Biden's terms, and those go up to 11 million. In that number are people who encompass lots of different statuses. It is not true that a majority of those are people who cross the border. It's a minority, because in that number are included people who primarily are here, who have overstayed their visas. And then they also include hundreds of thousands of people who are here on different statuses, but have not achieved a visa status. So people who are here on TPS, those are counted as undocumented individuals. Same thing with people who are here on humanitarian parole. These are all people who have a level of vetting that people who cross the border do not. Then when we talk about the people who are actually crossing the border, the numbers that we have are not so much people going around and taking a census and asking if you're illegal. It's based on encounters at the border. And anywhere from a quarter to a third of those people are encounters that get turned around and get sent back. So when we're talking about people who are undocumented, if you want to call them illegal, it encompasses a lot of different statuses. And when we're talking about, that's why we're talking about these ICE raids, they are looking for people not necessarily who walked over the border, and especially they're not specifically looking for people with criminal records. They are looking for people who are undocumented here, and that encompasses a lot of statuses, a lot of which people came here only after achieving either a visa, either a TPS status, or a humanitarian parole status. So I just want to when we talk about who these people are rounding up, it's a lot of different things, not just people crossing the border.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true.
I just one thing I can't wrap my head around. Mark Halpern had on a guest yesterday. The I guess if maybe you guys caught the Late Show, and she was some Los Angeles journalist type, and she was doing this thing about my teens picking strawberries. Oh my goodness, my kids doing this and that, and I'm like, well, what what else are kids supposed to do? My not favorite thing growing up was digging a hole. The only thing I knew about gardening was, my parents, my dad doing all the seeds, germination, and then my turn came. Rahul, grab the shovel. You need to dig a hole. And I'm like, digging holes is not something I enjoy, but it's what it takes, right? And so this lady was saying about, essentially, it came back to that: who will pick the cotton? Okay, and then it was like, well, her rebuttal was, but this is the situation. This is how the employment works. Well, isn't that what plantation owners of the South said, right? That we need this type of labor. We are just in this, it's a peculiar institution. So now the Dems are saying, well, unfortunately, because, I'm hearing in the chat, I'm not saying the Dems are saying this, but we all know $65,000, 30 years later, still no visa. So because we're in a limbo system, we're back to a peculiar institution. And so let's get back to the queue. Questions for Mr. T. West. Claudio from Italy.
No, more than a question, I was going to ask this thing. If, for example, T. West think that is a problem, for example, that in certain sectors, because there is this cheap labor, that could be a risk in the inner cities for a lack of better jobs, because there is not technological investment, because there is not human formation investment. I mean, people that before they were welders or other things, that they will be substituted with better stuff. They can be transformed in teachers, people in the health sector, or as some people say, people in the immigration sector, people in the nurse care. And why this thing is not happening is because only of the problem of the cheap labor, or there is something else that makes it easier for them to take people with a different formation from the border. So let this illegal do that because they are already formed, even if it's not according to American ways.
Yeah, that's an excellent comment. What I would say is this: it's good that Trump has been promoting the bringing back of trade classes at the high school level. For the last few decades, in most high schools, the trade classes were removed. That's the shop classes for how do you build cabinets? How do you do welding? How do you do these things? That was removed. So Trump is providing monies to high schools to bring that back. And that's a good thing for the United States, because you have skilled tradesmen. Not everybody wants to go to college. You have people who want a skilled trade. Now, decades ago, under Chairman Mao of China, he said that China will make things, will build things with their hands. And China carried out that program, and they taught their people how to build things. China have more engineers than any country in the world. They have their politicians. Most of their politicians are engineers. Most of America's politicians are doggone lawyers. Okay, so you become great in the world economically by making and producing things and then selling it to the rest of the world. That is what made the United States great more than anything, even though they were doing it off of black slave labor at that time. Now, China did not do it off of slave labor. They didn't do it that way. They did it because their leaders had the vision to do that. And that's one thing that I will credit Donald Trump for having as a businessman. He does have vision in that area. Now, the other thing, one more thing, very briefly here. You know, when I was growing up, I came from a large family. There were 13 of us. And I had 12 brothers, one sister. And in the summertime, my mother would take us to the strawberry fields. Ro, you mentioned strawberries. She would take us to the strawberry fields or the green bean to pick those string beans and all. We made a hell of a lot of money because we had a large family. We made a hell of a lot of money in the summertime. So I could pay for everything that I needed for the upcoming school year from what I would do in the summertime. And now this was pre-teen. You know, this was, I'm like 11 years old, 12, 13, 14. In the summertime, we're doing that. So, but today what we have, some people say, well, who's going to pick the strawberries? Who's going to pick the cherries, et cetera, the agricultural products? Who's going to do that? Well, this is decades later. Most of those things, not all, most of those things in the agricultural area are automated. So what's happening with many of the illegal immigrants who either they come across the border or they overstay their visas, because some of them come in and they have work visas where they can come in and they can work in the agricultural industry as well as in institutions. Okay, they come in and they overstay, but still here illegally. What happens is that when they overstay, most of them, they go into the inner cities. In the past, they were out in the rural areas where the agriculture was. But that is no longer the case. Most of them go into the inner cities now, and they're getting on welfare. They're getting on the SNAP program. They're getting Medicaid. So you're having that type of situation that is developing in the United States of America. And I say again, not all of them are doing that, but a lot of them are.
Yes, thank you for that, T. West. And I just wanted to share, I guess, my own personal experience, right? Like, I don't mind, or I can paint a fence, right? We've all seen Karate Kid, right? You know, wax on, wax off, right? Simple motions, okay? I can't put up drywall, but I think I could take a course and in a week I could learn to do that, right? It doesn't seem like beyond the scope. I mean, that was the comment yesterday, like, who's gonna do the drywall? Like, somehow there's this, and also I think for the general YouTube viewer audience, right? Like, I'm a programmer, that's my background. I love the program, right? But I am very envious, you could say even jealous, when I see, like, we had to put up a fence in the backyard, and it was Super Builders. It's a company in San Jose. I recommend them, right? But they had a crew. They had a crew of Mexicans, and it's like, man, to have a crew where you can get stuff done, and we've lost that ability in America, right? To have crews. So it would be nice to, have a revival of that. That's just a personal comment. Andre from New York with your hand up.
Well, I wouldn't say we've lost it. We have crews. We're proposing to deport those crews, and that's the problem. And that's going to drive up housing costs. So now we have another issue on the GDP scale or economic forecasting, because if we deport the people who are making housing costs are going to go up. As far as the strawberries, there is no automated strawberry picking. You can do automated outside non-greenhouse agriculture with root-based products. You can do potatoes, you can do carrots through a scooper, but any hanging fruit or vegetable is all still hand-picked. So when the reporter who's actually been to these farms in California yesterday, again, I pointed this out last night, like, It's weird when we talk to people who are actually in the room, like the people in Los Angeles or the people who are talking about Biden, and they're like, on the record, I can state this. This is a reporter who has gone to those farms, has talked to those people, and has come to the conclusion that if those people leave, there will be no backfilling of other people. I made the point last night that we're talking about. You can talk about the effects of minimum wage, like during Mark's show, that we can have a mandatory minimum wage, right? Well, guess what happens when you fire people that you're paying below minimum wage? You're increasing the wage rate of your fruit and vegetable pickers. So not only are we paying more for domestically produced fruits and vegetables, and California supplies between 18 and 20% of agriculture for the rest of the country, but we have put tariffs on things we cannot grow. As Madeline Dean, the congresswoman from Pennsylvania, pointed out during a House meeting with Commerce Secretary, he was saying that, we can just, bring manufacturing, we can make stuff in this country. Well, you can't make a banana in this country, and we can't make coffee in this country. So there are things that we are already putting taxes on that are tariffs, and then we are apparently now raising the rate that we are paying agricultural workers. So in the end, this means a higher costs for everybody. Consumer price is going to go up, and that affects everything as well. Whatever we feel about what's the right thing or not, we should also think about what the economy is going to do at the end. It could be all good at the end, but we're doing things that are against what the economic indicators have told us for the last 20 years to do.
Thank you for that, Andre. And just as a point of, I guess, clarification, I bike ride through like South San Jose, Morgan Hill, Gilroy. There's crops. So I see the people picking. It's not a high skilled thing. It's, picking. But again, I wonder, high school youth go into hospitals, they volunteer for free. Why can't we have a volunteering brigade? We have a Federal Reserve. There's ability to stretch the dollar. Bill discounting, there is a way. I'll just say this. If California can throw $40 billion at homelessness, nothing to show for, $500 million for a state courthouse website system that's not being used, billions on a high-speed rail not going anywhere, why can't we just subsidize kids picking crops, right? I mean, I don't believe in that, but it's just like tit for tat.
Can I tie that into the point that was raised earlier about apprenticeships? Because Obama spent $250 million. It was bipartisan legislation during the Obama administration for apprenticeships. That gained us 500,000, slightly more than 500,000 apprenticeships during that time for $250 million in grants. So now think about what money is required if you're talking about subsidizing, not having migrant workers, but subsidizing citizens' pay to pick crops. What amount are we willing to put into the budget?
I want to know. That's what I want to find out. But the result would be, right, actual work rather than homelessness. So there's a different output. Interesting discussion. Jackie from SoCal.
I'm confused. Why is it so hard to get a job when there are so many employers complaining about not finding workers? I just don't understand. Are the Latinos really replacing the African Americans so the African Americans are not finding work because I have trouble understanding this. If everywhere there are job openings and people are saying they're desperate for work, I don't know what's happening.
I will point out one example. I believe it was last year when there was it was like a meat packing processing plant. When ICE enforcement came in and they got rid of whoever was there illegally, guess what? The locals now were getting hired, and they interviewed a black dude that's like, I got a job now. So, that might be an anecdote, but that was just one example. T. West, do you have a comment on that?
Yes. Let me go back to the agricultural area first, and then we'll come to the comment made about the meatpacking locations. Now, the old saying, necessity is the mother of all inventions. Where there's a necessity, where there's a need, you find a way of satisfying that need. Now, the United States itself, the foundation of the United States was established mainly off of cheap labor. That's the foundation of America. First, you had indentured servitude, and then from indentured servitude, you had chattel slavery. That is what happened. So the capitalists within the United States, they're always looking for the cheapest form of labor. That's what capitalism is, to find the cheapest form of labor. Now, the cheapest form is, of course, is slavery. That's the maximum of exploitation. Now, when you have with crops, as I said, with most of agriculture, not all, most of agriculture, it has been automated. It is correct. Strawberries would be that one of the exceptions. String beans would be one of those exceptions. But ingenuity is moving progressively. As time go on, you'll see much of that also becoming automated. With the meat packing places, and also let me back up. Let's go to the home construction industry. 30 years ago, if you went out to a construction site, and even 40 years ago, if you went out to a construction site, you would see African Americans, they would be doing the drywalling, they would be doing the painting, they would be hanging the drywall, the sheetrock and all. They would be hanging all of that. Today, it would be extremely rare to find African Americans doing that. The ones who are doing that mainly, primarily now, are Hispanic. Now, once you have, for a generation, once that group is no longer doing that, those African Americans are no longer doing that, and then you see a job wanted ad for drywalling, well, that new generation of African Americans, they don't know how to do that. They haven't been trained in how to do that. So that job may be unfilled, or it might not be filled by them because they don't do that. They're not trained in that anymore. So when we look at the economic situation here in the United States, we're looking at over $37 trillion of debt. What that says is that the economic indicators, the prevailing economic indicators, have not been working. And what that means is that you need to go in a different direction. We can look at statistics all day long, but when you look at the bottom line, you look at your debt, it's not working. Now, you got some people who will say, well, debt is good. No, debt is not good. It's not good. Overall, it is not good. When you pay off your car payment is paid off, and the comprehensive insurance policies, when all that's paid off, you're a happy camper. Most people are happy campers. So that's what we want to look at. We want to look at where we are right now, what got us here, and not be afraid to go in a new direction.
Yes, I agree, T. West, and I think that's where the calculus on Trump's side is so simple, right? That we can anyone can think of a household, how it's been to be dealing with debt, how it feels to be debt free, and then on the other side they go, well, we don't care about that. So you toss that metric out, you toss that calculus out, and then you get irrational behavior, which is, I believe, where the Dems are stuck in. Jackie from Southern California.
Oh, I accidentally failed to lower my hand.
Okay, Claudio from Italy.
Yeah, because to add what was asking Jacqueline regarding why there is still unemployment despite there are so many jobs filled, one reason is that many of these jobs should be automated, and we are not automating that because there is this cheap labor thing, as T. West said, and so we wait to have this cheap labor arriving from other places, whether it's in an illegal way or a legal way. Mostly it's an illegal way. That's why it is a problem. The second thing is that differently from other countries, like can be the Southeast Asian countries, there are not people that while university they take a second job in a sector, while can be transportation, as Amel say, or they became a mechanic, or they became something like that. Or to use the example of Darrell, can be screenwriters or people that for a job they make the actors or the people for some seconds on a movie. And I think it's a big problem that when people tell you, hey, no, you can 10 years study and then have a 100,000 year job. It has not been true. Let's be honest. The jobs are the welders, the plumber, all that stuff. And now we say we can do because we have to have a degree. And that's why some people like Brian Kaplan talk about the problem of overeducation. Because let's be honest, if I take 2 degrees and then they promise me to work in a think tank and that it doesn't happen, of course I will be pissed. But I will not tell, then let's bring the immigrants to do that cheap labor that is present because of me. I will say, let's automate all the stuff that is possible to be automatized, and let's transform the people, the Black American in their inner city, in mechanics, in repairers, in welders, in all the people that are able to work with that machine, people that can put in a good shape a server. If it goes blackout, it is burned out. But when you tell this discussion to people, they say, no, but we can do that because we are a service society. That's why you have to keep that service on. If you don't have people that have traits that can keep that service on, it's stupid. In the day that a robot is not able to repair a tire and you don't have a mechanic, what the fuck you do? You will wait for an illegal coming from somewhere until... And then when it is possible, you will do something. I don't think so. And regarding what Henry said, I think what Obama did with apprenticeship is good. They should be kept on a bipartisan scale. Also to make accept to people, hey, you can have a degree in economics, but you can also be a mechanic. The two things are not in fight with one another. Let's be honest.
Thank you, Claudio. And let's get Daryl in from Philly. He's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, I wanted to just follow up on like the discussion of illegal immigration and like who's going to pick the strawberries and whatnot. And I know some of us have been having a little bit of back and forth about capitalism. And I would sort of been thinking about that capitalism is going to kind of solve this illegal immigration problem, particularly with robotics. I think if we're able to prevent more illegal immigration, prevent more people coming in the next like 10, 15 years, you're going to see robots taking a lot of these jobs. All you have to do is buy the robot once and doesn't complain and can work 24 hours. And I think eventually it's just going to be economics where you can't afford to pay someone $10 an hour and illegal to pick strawberries because it's way cheaper to pick them with a robot. And I feel like we're so focused on like what's happening in the immediate moment right now, but I feel like if we look forward with the eye of like economics, capitalism, and technology, I think this problem will be solved for us. Just curious if anybody had any thoughts on that, or if I'm just crazy.
Well, maybe this is not quite so related, but I did want to bring in our friend from Malaysia, Sam, because he had an amazing presentation about the fact that college may not be for everyone, and there are many job opportunities out there. So Sam from Malaysia, please humor us.
Okay, can I humor Daryl first?
Of course.
Daryl, you're crazy.
Why am I crazy?
Well, robot will be there, that's for sure, but it'll take some time. They're going to
be
I
here
was
faster
joking.
than you guys
I was just
think,
making fun of you, buddy. I was
No,
just making
okay.
fun of you.
It's okay.
I think this whole immigration issue is there's a lot of red herring in this whole immigration issue. Number one, I think illegal immigration is just illegal immigration anywhere in the world. It's a question of just actually, are you going to abide by the rule of law, or are you going to allow your rule of law to be broken? So that's all I see with that. And anywhere in the world, including in America. I mean, I had a visa when I went to school. And when I graduated, I came home. I didn't overstay. Is that so difficult to do? Which is to just obey the law? I mean, you come to a country, your hosts allow you to be in a country. obey its law. And as far as the host is concerned as well, is to say that, yeah, you come in, obey our laws. I don't understand this whole thing that, you know, part of the country is saying that, oh, you don't need to obey the law. We want cheap labor. I mean, over here, if you hire an illegal immigrant, you as an employer is going to get fined and probably even jailed, depending on how much you have actually broken the law. So it's as simple as that. With respect to the question of, I mean, what Rahul was saying, I mean, about what I'm seeing here as well, and I think the same applies in the States. There are plenty of people who will take up any jobs, in my opinion, if it's available at the right price. But if you keep pushing down the wages because illegal immigrants give you lower wages, nobody's going to do it. You know, I mean, that's all that it amounts to. I don't know. I mean, Rahul, what exactly you wanted me to comment on?
I just remember, Shamsul, you gave that presentation with your friend Chong about and how you said that, you know, college may not be for everyone, right? And we get in this in America. It's like you should see when kids are starting to end high school, this pressure of which college and oh my God, the SAT study and all that, you know, and that's fine if those kids are on that academic track, right? But if they're just not responding, then, you know, go into the skills, pick up a skill, right, and build yourself that way.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I did. I mean, college is not for everybody. And especially in this day and age where actually, if you look at social sciences, you can pick up a lot of things from just by learning from your from the internet, actually, that you don't really need to go to college to learn. I mean, you can take off-campus classes if you think so, but at the end of the day, you as a college student, you're a consumer. You're a client to the university, and the university better be able to actually provide you with the skills that will allow you to have a job that's going to give you the rate of return that you have invested in that 2 or 4 year college. If you can't do that, you are better off to actually go and learn a skill or actually go and start your own business. It's not necessary. And this is coming from somebody who spent 4 years of school to do engineering. I don't think I want my kid to go to college and take anthropology at the moment, you know. So when I see the conversation in sometimes on paper where, you know, where people are taking college loans and can't pay it off because the salaries are not there, that's your own fault. Because you go and took some dumb shit courses and you say, I have a college degree that doesn't give me the wages or doesn't give me the employment. That's your problem. You got scammed by the colleges. Nobody should be paying for your loan.
Yes, thank you for that, Sam. Wesley with his hand up. Oh, got to unmute you there, Wesley. There you go.
I was just going to say, as Daryl was talking about, I think it was Daryl talking about the strawberries and robotics solving these things. I'm just going to give you a quick, it's anecdotal, but listen, I'm designing an electrical connection system for the Gen 3 Starlink satellite system, okay? It's what I do typically in automotive, but I'm designing an electrical connector that needs to survive the temperature swings in orbit. So you got full sun, you're on the other side, and so you go like 175 degrees Celsius. We have to, and so it has to survive that. So what I did was I went into Grok AI and I put in all of my design constraints and I asked it to help me select an optimal plastic injected moldable material. and it came back with Altum. You got to use Altum on the connection system. I sent the exact same prompt that I sent to Grok to our materials engineering group. We pay for an entire group of people to help us select materials, right? I sent them, and they sent back about 2 days later, Altum. So what I'm saying is artificial intelligence is in its infancy, and it is
Yeah.
going to, there's going to be so much downward pressure against high wage jobs too. It isn't just the strawberry picking. It's just something like, wow, it took me 5 minutes to get an answer that took me 2 days to get from our materials engineering group. So,
Can I comment on that? Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Wesley, I love that story. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love, I haven't had a lot of, in my work, I haven't had a lot of success with AI. Even if I say, oh, write 2 paragraphs about something, it typically doesn't do a very good job. But to hear that it did an analysis for you, that's awesome.
Another thing is, I did mention in the chat, and I can only say limited things about this because I can't speak freely about everything they're having me work on, but there is a lot of engineering activity going into autonomous vehicle assembly. Some of the automotive manufacturers' goal is just to have a dark plant where the lights are shut off and the automobiles are building themselves. So, UAW needs to think about that before they strike on frivolous things.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a Tesla investor, so I'm well aware of all their efforts to basically do that.
Yeah.
And I think if people are skeptical about like robots picking strawberries or anything like that, there's the Tesla Optimus robot. There's a great video where they designed a hand that picks up a raw egg. Okay, so if you can have a robot that has the dexterity as a human being, there's no problem with picking a strawberry, hand picked.
Right.
And the AI element comes in. This, Wesley, it's the visual recognition.
Right.
It has the intelligence to tell the robot what to actually do. So it goes hand in hand. And I think people, for low end jobs, high end jobs, we're in like 10 years from now, we're going to be on this thing where we're talking about, oh, how do we change our economic system because no one has jobs.
Right. I saw the same video. They took this robot and the task was to have it install a K-cup in a Keurig machine. And NVIDIA has these chipsets where if you have the code written, it learns. So I guess that's the best word I can come up for it. So the robot tries to put the K-cup in, it fails, and then the code is rewritten, it does it again, and within a day it's optimized, it's making coffee. And you're not going to see a lot of the innovations are going to be there with the AI chipsets and mimicking what human beings are doing with robots, right? They're going to be able to mimic. And I agree, there's going to be downward pressure on what were invaluable jobs. Like they're going to go the way of Kodak, So universal basic income, I don't know, but there's going to be an issue humanity's going to have to deal with. Yep.
Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to do universal basic income, but not until we can get somewhere Bangladesh or Pakistan can have that kind of stuff, because I still feel it is kind of a cheap thing to have all this added money coming to us, even though we have a huge workforce in other countries. But I think the biggest reason why we're having a lot of issues with these upper levels, and we're talking about colleges, and it's because colleges have become so astronomically expensive. That was one of the things I remember back in the 80s. It's like, oh, you go to college because, you're going to triple or quadruple your ability to have an income. Now, when you're going to college, we're finding that, you're probably, with how much money you're going to have to pay for, it's going to be the same amount as if you would have gone to high school and then become an apprentice at some place. And so this is going to be this is like the biggest question I've had for a lot of the schooling. It's like, you guys are just too expensive. Why should I go to college and waste up all my time when I could have gotten a job like as a sales guy at a car dealership and then risen up to like the head of the head owner? It's a lot of issues. Back in the old days, there'd be an easy choice, but now it's just like, I don't know. And with all the need for blue collar work, it's like even more of a question now of like, should I really be going to college? And what if Trump, like what he said, he wanted to make a free college where people could get accredited for something? Well, then why go to colleges for that when you could just get a free accredited certificate from the United States college, and then just use that instead? So I'm more fascinated about what's going to happen in the future with that, because that's one of the biggest issues. And of course, you know, I'm already excited that they're increasing the minimum wage so that we can have fully automated McDonald's where you can get a burger for half the price. So
thank you for that, Luke. Guys, we're over time here. I want to thank everyone for joining. We're going to play the outro, and then folks can hang out on Zoom and continue to ask questions.
Sorry if we cut anyone off, but that's a wrap. Remember, you can catch us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. It's your chance to join the conversation and have your voice heard. Just check the link in the description or visit americastalk.show. Together, through the free exchange of ideas, we can truly make America great again. Don't miss out. Tune in and be part of the dialogue.